In the bustling corridors of Mercy General Hospital, Taylor Reed, a dedicated healthcare professional, faced subtle prejudice that quickly escalated into open hostility. Dr. Matthew Holt, a powerful figure protected by institutional influence, sought to silence Taylor through intimidation and abuse. Yet Taylor's unwavering professionalism, courage, and meticulous documentation ignited a movement for justice, uncovering deep-seated discrimination that had affected countless others. Join Taylor on a powerful journey filled with resilience, bravery, and determination to create lasting change. Witness a story where truth triumphs over power and dignity prevails over injustice. Do you believe Taylor made the right choices in the face of adversity? Like, comment, and subscribe below and join the conversation today. Taylor Reed stepped into the busy emergency department at Mercy General Hospital, immediately greeted by the familiar sounds of medical monitors beeping rhythmically, muted conversations of nurses at their stations, and the soft footsteps of patients being moved between rooms. It was early morning, and Taylor felt the reassuring normalcy of routine. At 35, Taylor had become a cornerstone of the hospital staff, respected for calm professionalism, compassion, and meticulous care. Adjusting the stethoscope comfortably around their neck, Taylor checked the day's schedule, back-to-back patient assessments, a clinical team meeting, and rounds with the attending physicians. Despite the demanding workload, Taylor felt a quiet satisfaction. Helping others brought clarity and purpose. Taylor's first patient of the day was Mrs. Helen Brooks, an elderly woman with chronic asthma. Taylor smiled warmly upon entering the examination room. "Good morning, Mrs. Brooks. How are you feeling today?" Mrs. Brooks returned the smile, visibly relaxed by Taylor's presence. "Oh, much better now that you're here, Taylor." Taylor carefully checked Mrs. Brooks's vital signs, documenting them precisely. Everything was within normal range, though Taylor noted slight wheezing and adjusted medication accordingly. "We'll continue monitoring closely, but everything looks good," Taylor reassured her. Leaving the examination room, Taylor documented Mrs. Brooks's information meticulously into the hospital's electronic system. Precise documentation had always been a habit, instilled through years of nursing school and professional experience. Little did Taylor know that very habit would soon become invaluable. "Morning, Taylor," greeted a friendly voice. Taylor turned to see Grace Nguyen, a nurse colleague and friend, approaching with a coffee in hand. Grace had always been supportive, and her upbeat energy balanced Taylor's quiet intensity perfectly. "Hey, Grace," Taylor replied, accepting the coffee gratefully. "You're a lifesaver," Grace laughed lightly. "Thought you might need it. Dr. Holt's running today's meeting." Taylor sighed slightly, preparing mentally. Dr. Matthew Holt, senior emergency physician, was widely respected for medical expertise but had a reputation for being difficult, particularly toward younger staff and those he disagreed with personally. Taylor had experienced subtle disdain from Holt before, brief dismissals or pointed comments, always carefully worded. Entering the meeting room, Taylor took a seat, laptop ready. The clinical team assembled slowly: nurses, physician assistants, residents, and finally Dr. Holt. Tall, imposing, with gray hair meticulously combed back, Holt carried himself with undisguised authority. "Let's get started," Dr. Holt said abruptly, glancing briefly toward Taylor without acknowledgement. "We've got a full day, no time to waste." As the meeting progressed, Taylor raised a point about patient follow-up care, calmly emphasizing the importance of clear discharge instructions to reduce readmission rates. "Evidence shows clearer patient guidance significantly improves outcomes," Taylor explained, keeping a respectful tone. Dr. Holt's face hardened slightly. "While I appreciate your enthusiasm, Taylor, we've always done things a certain way here. Let's avoid complicating simple matters." Several colleagues shifted uncomfortably. Grace gave Taylor a supportive glance. Taylor simply nodded, carefully keeping emotions controlled. This wasn't unusual, but Holt's tone had grown increasingly dismissive over recent weeks. After the meeting concluded, Taylor stayed behind briefly, reviewing notes carefully and methodically. Grace lingered, approaching quietly. "You handled that well," she whispered encouragingly. Taylor managed a small, composed smile. "Thanks, it's nothing new." "Still, don't let him wear you down," Grace replied, squeezing Taylor's shoulder gently before leaving. Taylor returned to patient rounds, diligently documenting every observation, instruction, and interaction, meticulous, thorough, and systematic. Precise records had always provided confidence and security in Taylor's career, ensuring clarity and accountability. By midday, Taylor had nearly forgotten the discomfort of the morning meeting, engrossed in patient care and problem-solving. Then, while preparing medications, Taylor heard a familiar, authoritative voice behind them. "Taylor, a moment please," Dr. Holt called from down the hallway. There was no warmth or invitation in his tone. Taylor turned, heart rate slightly elevated but expression calm and professional. "Of course, Dr. Holt." Holt stepped closer, deliberately invading Taylor's personal space. I'd appreciate it if you'd avoid undermining my authority in front of staff. Holt's voice was low, controlled, and clearly accusatory. Dr. Holt, my intention was simply to share best practices, Taylor responded evenly, keeping calm despite the uncomfortable proximity. Patient care is everyone's priority. Indeed, Holt said icily. And we achieve that by respecting hierarchy and experience. Perhaps that's something you should spend more time reflecting on. With that, Holt turned abruptly, walking away without another word, leaving Taylor standing alone, heart racing but expression carefully composed. Taylor took a slow breath, absorbing the moment. Turning back to the medication preparation, Taylor consciously steadied shaking hands. Holt's behavior had clearly escalated, and Taylor knew instinctively this would not be an isolated event. After composing themselves, Taylor discreetly noted the time, place, and exact words exchanged. Documenting quietly but deliberately on a small notebook they always carried, Taylor knew accuracy would be crucial. Despite the unsettling encounter, Taylor's resolve solidified. This wasn't the first adversity faced due to identity or principles, and Taylor knew it wouldn't be the last. What mattered was the integrity and calm determination Taylor consistently brought into challenging situations. Taylor finished the shift strong, interactions with patients compassionate and professional as always. But beneath the composed exterior, Taylor's mind had already begun a strategic calculation. When Grace asked softly at shift end if everything was all right, Taylor calmly replied with a quiet assurance that masked deeper concerns. Yes, everything's okay, for now. Taylor knew the long road ahead would require every bit of the calm resilience that had defined so much of life so far. And it began today, with careful documentation, strategic planning, and the quiet strength of knowing the fight ahead would be long, but necessary. The morning sunlight was just breaking over Mercy General Hospital, bathing the building in soft amber hues as Taylor Reed walked steadily towards the entrance. Last night's confrontation with Dr. Matthew Holt lingered vividly in Taylor's mind, but determination and resolve had replaced the initial anxiety. Taylor knew the importance of carefully documenting every incident and had spent the previous evening meticulously logging details into a private journal. Inside the bustling emergency department, Taylor's day began typically: patient rounds, medication checks, chart reviews. Yet beneath the normalcy, Taylor remained acutely aware of Dr. Holt's looming presence, now feeling more like an oppressive shadow. Taylor's first patient of the day, a teenage boy named Jamie Evans, arrived after a minor skateboarding accident. Calmly assessing the injury, Taylor reassured both Jamie and his anxious parents. "It's just a sprain," Taylor said gently, expertly applying a compression bandage. Jamie visibly relaxed, trusting Taylor's confident and empathetic demeanor. Just as Taylor finished documenting the treatment in Jamie's electronic chart, Dr. Holt appeared at the nurse's station nearby, voice raised slightly in irritation. "Who authorized these medication adjustments without my approval?" Taylor glanced up, aware of the tension spreading among the staff. Nurse Grace Nguyen quickly responded, professional but clearly uneasy. "Those were standard protocol adjustments, Dr. Holt." Holt's eyes narrowed, tone condescending. "Standard according to whom?" "Last I checked, I set the protocols around here." Grace hesitated, clearly uncomfortable, before Taylor stepped forward calmly. "Dr. Holt, I reviewed and approved the adjustments. They align perfectly with hospital policy and best practices." Holt's expression darkened, jaw tightening visibly as he addressed Taylor directly. "Once again, Taylor, you seem determined to question my judgment publicly." Taylor maintained a composed tone, careful to remain respectful yet firm. "I apologize if you perceived it that way. My intention was solely patient safety and compliance with guidelines." A tense silence fell briefly, colleagues discreetly observing. Holt finally spoke, voice clipped. "We'll discuss this privately later," he warned before abruptly turning away. Grace whispered softly to Taylor, concern evident. "Are you okay?" Taylor nodded calmly, though the adrenaline had left their pulse racing. "I expected this, I'll handle it." Throughout the day, Taylor methodically recorded each interaction, adding detailed notes on Dr. Holt's behavior. Over lunch, Taylor discreetly reviewed hospital policy documents, double-checking protocols to ensure accuracy. Everything matched precisely, the evidence was clear. Holt's behavior was unjustified, rooted more in personal animosity than professional disagreement. Later, Taylor noticed Dr. Susan Evans, the senior administrator responsible for quality and safety, walking toward her office. Recalling Evans's reputation for fairness, Taylor felt an instinctive urge to seek guidance. "Dr. Evans, could I speak with you briefly?" Taylor asked quietly, approaching with professional courtesy. Susan Evans, known for her calm, measured manner, stopped immediately. "Of course, Taylor, come in." Inside the office, Taylor hesitated briefly, choosing words carefully. I'm experiencing difficulties with Dr. Holt. There have been multiple instances of dismissive and aggressive behavior that are affecting patient care and staff morale. Susan listened intently, her expression serious but supportive. Have you documented these incidents? Taylor nodded, carefully retrieving the notebook. Every interaction clearly dated and detailed. Susan reviewed the entries carefully, her expression growing increasingly concerned. Taylor, this is serious. You're not the first person to raise concerns about Dr. Holt, but this is the most thoroughly documented. Taylor felt a brief surge of relief, finally, someone acknowledging the problem openly. I just want it handled correctly, Taylor said firmly. The behavior isn't acceptable. Susan nodded thoughtfully. Continue documenting everything. I'll discreetly look into Dr. Holt's past behavior. If there's a pattern, it will help your case significantly. Thank you, Taylor said genuinely, feeling a newfound sense of hope. Returning to the emergency department, Taylor's relief quickly dissipated as Dr. Holt approached, expression tense. My office now, Holt demanded abruptly, leaving no room for refusal. Taylor calmly followed, mentally preparing for confrontation. Inside Holt's office, cluttered with medical texts and framed awards, Holt closed the door forcefully, voice barely controlled. I don't appreciate being undermined repeatedly. Holt started immediately, eyes narrowing aggressively. I've tolerated your disruptions long enough. Dr. Holt, I've only followed hospital policies and protocols, Taylor responded calmly, consciously maintaining steady eye contact. Your attitude suggests otherwise, Holt retorted, stepping closer intimidatingly. Maybe you should reconsider your position here. Taylor, resolutely calm despite rising tension, simply replied, if you feel disciplinary action is warranted, please follow the appropriate channels. Momentarily thrown by Taylor's composed response, Holt hesitated before regaining his aggressive stance. Don't test me, he finally warned, voice menacingly low. Taylor simply nodded once, acknowledging but not yielding. Holt, visibly frustrated, finally dismissed Taylor with a curt wave. Get out. Exiting the office, Taylor's heart raced, but determination burned stronger. Immediately after, Taylor carefully recorded every detail of the encounter, date-stamped and precise. That evening, Taylor contacted Grace privately, asking gently, Grace, would you be willing to document what you've observed regarding Dr. Holt? Grace didn't hesitate, responding with clear support. Absolutely, it's long overdue. As Taylor closed the conversation, hope strengthened significantly. Dr. Evans's recognition, Grace's support, and Taylor's meticulous documentation created the foundation needed for meaningful action. Though Taylor knew the battle had just begun, confidence and calm resolve provided strength. The long road toward justice required patience, meticulous evidence gathering, and unwavering composure, qualities Taylor had always embraced. Today marked a clear turning point, not just personally but professionally. The fight ahead would be difficult, yet undeniably essential. Over the following days, Taylor Reid quietly intensified efforts to document every detail of interactions involving Dr. Matthew Holt, no matter how minor they seemed. The careful, methodical approach provided a measure of control in an increasingly tense environment. Taylor noticed subtle shifts in how colleagues behaved. Some showed quiet solidarity, while others deliberately avoided involvement, clearly wary of potential repercussions. Grace Nguyen remained steadfast, consistently checking in on Taylor and reaffirming her willingness to provide testimony. Her unwavering support became a reassuring anchor in turbulent waters. One afternoon, during a quiet break in the nurses' lounge, Grace approached Taylor discreetly, holding 2 cups of coffee. Any updates? She asked gently, settling into a chair beside Taylor. Taylor exhaled slowly, accepting the coffee gratefully. Dr. Evans reviewed everything. She's supportive but cautious. Dr. Holt has significant influence, Grace nodded knowingly. He's untouchable to some around here, but you're doing everything right, careful, deliberate, it'll matter. Their conversation paused abruptly as the door opened, revealing Dr. Susan Evans herself. She offered a calm, reassuring smile upon seeing Taylor and Grace. Do you have a moment, Taylor? Of course, Taylor replied, rising promptly. Inside a nearby empty conference room, Dr. Evans closed the door softly. I wanted to update you privately, she began, carefully composed. I've discreetly reviewed previous HR files and found several informal complaints against Dr. Holt over the years, mostly dismissed or quietly buried. Taylor felt both validated and disheartened simultaneously. Why wasn't action taken sooner? Dr. Evans sighed gently, regret clear in her expression. His contributions and connections provided him substantial protection. But your documentation is precise and compelling enough to make ignoring this impossible. Taylor's relief was immediate but tempered by realism. What's our next step? Dr. Evans considered carefully before answering. We must gather concrete testimonies from others who have experienced similar treatment. I suspect many have kept silent out of fear. If we can build a strong coalition, it will significantly strengthen your position. Determined, Taylor immediately thought of potential allies, colleagues who had privately voiced frustrations but never publicly challenged Holt. I'll speak to some coworkers discreetly, Taylor decided firmly. Several nurses and younger doctors seem hesitant but supportive. Excellent, Dr. Evans affirmed, clearly encouraged. Approach them carefully. I'll handle the administration's angle quietly. With renewed clarity, Taylor began reaching out individually to colleagues, choosing words carefully, always emphasizing discretion, professionalism, and collective strength. Many expressed initial hesitation, yet gradually more colleagues began stepping forward with carefully documented testimonies of their own negative encounters. One evening, after a challenging shift, Taylor found a quiet moment with Michael Rivera, a young resident known for his careful, thoughtful demeanor. Taylor had seen Michael endure Dr. Holt's harsh criticisms on multiple occasions. "Michael, can I talk with you privately for a moment?" Taylor asked quietly, tone deliberately non-threatening. Michael hesitated only briefly before agreeing. "Sure, Taylor, what's up? I'm gathering documentation on Dr. Holt's behavior," Taylor explained calmly, clearly outlining the goal and approach. "Your perspective would be valuable if you're comfortable sharing." Michael exhaled slowly, visibly torn. "Honestly, I've avoided saying anything because I didn't think anyone would listen, but if you're stepping up, I want to help." The sense of relief in Michael's voice resonated deeply with Taylor, reinforcing the importance of what they were doing. Each new ally brought clarity to the bigger picture. This wasn't just personal, it was systemic. Meanwhile, Taylor observed Dr. Holt becoming increasingly volatile, sensing perhaps the growing scrutiny. His interactions grew more abrasive, alienating even those previously neutral. Despite the tension, Taylor remained consistently professional, ensuring every exchange was meticulously recorded. Grace continued quietly rallying support among nursing staff, significantly bolstering morale and courage among those uncertain about speaking up. Her steady presence and subtle encouragement created an atmosphere of solidarity, essential in maintaining unity against fear and intimidation. Gradually, word of the quiet rebellion spread within the hospital. Staff members who'd felt silenced began finding their voices, joining Taylor's coalition discreetly yet decisively. Each testimony added weight to the evidence against Holt, creating an undeniable narrative of misconduct and abuse of power. As momentum grew, Taylor felt a cautious optimism building. Though aware the toughest battles lay ahead, the solidarity and courage of colleagues offered genuine hope for meaningful change. Late one evening, after documenting another tense exchange, Taylor paused briefly, reflecting on how far things had come in such a short time. A gentle knock interrupted Taylor's thoughts. Grace appeared, holding a thick folder, her expression quietly determined. "More colleagues have come forward," she announced softly, handing Taylor the file. "You've inspired a lot of people here." Taylor took the folder, feeling the weight of responsibility and possibility. "We're doing this together," Taylor replied firmly, genuine gratitude evident. Grace nodded, a gentle smile appearing. "Together, then." As Taylor carefully reviewed the folder later that night, meticulously noting each entry, the significance of the growing movement became undeniable. It was no longer just Taylor's fight, it belonged to everyone willing to stand up for justice and dignity. Taylor knew clearly that the road ahead would be challenging, perhaps painful. But with allies at every turn and undeniable proof in hand, the possibility of real justice was closer now than ever before. And Taylor was ready to keep moving forward, step by determined step. With an ever-growing stack of detailed documentation and multiple colleagues willing to testify, Taylor Reed recognized it was time to officially initiate proceedings. The careful preparation had led to this moment, a turning point where quiet resolve transformed into direct action. Early one morning, Taylor arranged a meeting with Dr. Susan Evans and Grace Nguyen in a discreet hospital office. The room felt tense yet hopeful, each of them fully aware of the gravity of their undertaking. Susan began the discussion, calm and reassuring as ever. "The evidence we've gathered is significant. This goes beyond personal grievances, it demonstrates a clear pattern of misconduct." Taylor nodded solemnly. "I'm ready to formally submit the complaint." Grace added her affirmation immediately, voice confident. "You have support, we've got your back." Susan carefully outlined the next steps. "Once the complaint is submitted, Human Resources must investigate formally. It will become official and inevitably public knowledge. Are you prepared for that, Taylor?" Taylor didn't hesitate, voice steady and clear. "Absolutely, this isn't about me alone, it's about creating meaningful change." With unanimous agreement, Susan guided Taylor through the submission process. Carefully attaching documentation and multiple witness testimonies, Taylor felt a profound sense of purpose in hitting the submit button, officially triggering the investigative process. Within days, news spread throughout Mercy General Hospital. Reactions were mixed. Many showed open support, others remained cautious, quietly observing from the sidelines. Dr. Matthew Holt's immediate reaction was predictably confrontational. He openly dismissed the allegations as baseless, claiming they were fueled by personal vendettas rather than legitimate concerns. Despite Holt's vocal denials, Taylor remained composed, confident in the thoroughness of the collected evidence. Soon after the complaint became public, Taylor was approached by Leslie Parker, the hospital's HR investigator known for fairness and meticulousness. "Taylor, I'd like to schedule a formal interview to review your complaint," Leslie stated professionally, maintaining an impartial demeanor. "Bring all relevant documentation and witnesses you'd like to present." Taylor prepared carefully for the meeting, systematically organizing each document, witness statement, and record. Grace accompanied Taylor as moral support and as a corroborating witness. During the interview, Leslie Parker methodically reviewed each entry in Taylor's files. "The detail you've provided is remarkable," Leslie remarked appreciatively. "This will be extremely helpful in conducting a thorough investigation." Taylor's composure was unwavering throughout the detailed questioning. Each answer was precise and factual, reinforcing credibility and sincerity. Grace provided additional compelling testimony. "Dr. Holt's behavior is widely recognized but rarely challenged due to fear of retaliation," she stated clearly, lending weight to Taylor's claims. Leslie concluded the session thoughtfully. "I'll be interviewing other witnesses and Dr. Holt himself. This process takes time, but your cooperation and documentation have laid a solid foundation." In the following weeks, the hospital environment grew increasingly charged. Staff observed carefully as investigators interviewed employees across all departments. Conversations became more cautious, and the usual bustling camaraderie turned subdued as tension rose. Taylor continued daily duties calmly and professionally, steadfast in interactions with colleagues and patients alike. Despite Dr. Holt's continued presence, his behavior noticeably restrained. Now under scrutiny, Taylor never allowed composure to falter. One afternoon, Michael Rivera approached Taylor quietly after rounds. "Taylor, I was interviewed yesterday," he said softly, cautious but resolved. "I spoke honestly. It felt good to finally say everything." Taylor offered a gentle smile. "Thank you, Michael. Your courage will inspire others." And indeed, as Michael's testimony encouraged others, more voices joined the chorus of accountability. The accumulating weight of testimonies made the allegations impossible for hospital administration to ignore or dismiss lightly. As the official investigation progressed, local media began to take interest. Hospital administrators, clearly uncomfortable with growing public attention, issued cautious statements promising transparency and fairness. Taylor knew publicity was both powerful and potentially volatile, yet remained committed to the integrity and clarity that had defined the approach from the outset. Dr. Evans checked in regularly, providing quiet guidance through the complex internal politics of the investigation. Her steady presence offered critical reassurance that Taylor wasn't navigating this challenging path alone. Weeks into the investigation, Leslie Parker contacted Taylor again. "We've completed initial interviews and the evidence strongly supports your allegations," Leslie reported carefully. "Dr. Holt will soon be formally confronted with the findings. Be prepared, there may be intense pushback." "I understand," Taylor replied calmly, fully aware of the potential challenges ahead. That evening, reflecting quietly at home, Taylor felt a profound sense of clarity and resilience. The path ahead was uncertain, perhaps difficult, but the pursuit of truth and justice was now undeniably underway. Grace called later, checking in gently. "How are you feeling?" "Resolute," Taylor responded firmly, voice steady with conviction. "We've started something important here. There's no turning back now." Grace's voice softened warmly. "We're all right here with you, Taylor, every step." With the investigation officially underway, Taylor felt the collective strength and support of colleagues, the comfort of meticulous documentation, and a renewed confidence in the promise of meaningful justice. The journey forward would require patience and courage, but Taylor knew with absolute certainty it was a journey worth taking. As the formal investigation intensified, Mercy General Hospital became a focal point of tension and uncertainty. Staff moved cautiously, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. Taylor Reed remained steadfast, guided by clear principles and unwavering composure. One morning, Taylor arrived at work to find local media vans parked outside the hospital, reporters setting up cameras for live segments. News of the investigation had reached the broader community, drawing public attention and increasing pressure on the hospital administration to respond transparently. Inside, Taylor noticed colleagues exchanging anxious glances, many whispering softly as they watched the developing scene through lobby windows. Grace Nguyen approached quickly, concern evident in her eyes. "This has escalated fast," she remarked quietly. "It was inevitable," Taylor responded calmly, voice steady despite the heightened tension. "Now the administration can't ignore it." Almost on cue, hospital administrators issued a brief, carefully worded public statement promising full cooperation with the investigation. Yet behind closed doors, Taylor knew pressure was mounting internally, especially from influential hospital donors sympathetic to Dr. Holt. Dr. Holt himself became increasingly isolated, his interactions marked by curt, tense exchanges. Though publicly restrained, his displeasure remained palpable. One afternoon, Taylor was called into an unexpected meeting with Leslie Parker, the HR investigator. Leslie appeared troubled, expression carefully neutral. "We've hit a complication," Leslie began cautiously. "Several of Dr. Holt's influential colleagues and donors are pressing for a quick resolution. They're publicly questioning the validity of the investigation." Taylor remained composed, anticipating this reaction. "We expected pushback. Do we have sufficient evidence to proceed confidently?" Leslie nodded slowly. "The evidence remains compelling, but the pressure from Holt's allies is intensifying. They're aggressively attempting to discredit witnesses and the process itself. Be prepared for attempts to undermine your credibility." "I'm ready," Taylor replied firmly, understanding clearly the stakes involved. Indeed, the backlash soon began. Dr. Holt's supporters launched subtle yet strategic attempts to question Taylor's professionalism. Rumors circulated discreetly, implying the complaint was personally motivated or exaggerated. However, the careful groundwork Taylor had laid through meticulous documentation and widespread support from colleagues countered many of these attempts. Throughout this turmoil, Taylor maintained an unwavering professional demeanor, consistently prioritizing patient care and transparent communication. Colleagues, initially hesitant, drew courage from Taylor's example, reaffirming their testimonies and speaking openly in support. Grace continued to be instrumental, tirelessly rallying colleagues and ensuring morale stayed resilient. Her steadfast encouragement significantly mitigated the growing anxiety among staff. One particularly challenging evening, Dr. Susan Evans privately met with Taylor, her usual calm demeanor reflecting subtle worry. "The board of directors wants to expedite this investigation," she admitted quietly. "They're feeling pressure from all sides, but I've made clear we must remain thorough and fair." "I appreciate your support," Taylor responded sincerely. "Fairness is essential regardless of external pressures." Susan nodded firmly. "Agreed, but be prepared for increased scrutiny. It will intensify before it resolves." That night, reflecting quietly at home, Taylor felt an undeniable weariness but also a renewed sense of determination. The investigation had exposed significant institutional flaws, and Taylor knew with clarity that addressing these issues required resilience. Grace called again, her voice gently encouraging. "Stay strong, Taylor. People see your courage. They're inspired." Taylor's reply was calm yet resolute. "We're in this together, Grace, and we're making real progress." As external and internal pressures continued to build, Taylor recognized this critical phase demanded unwavering perseverance. The challenges ahead were clear: personal attacks, public scrutiny, and institutional resistance. But Taylor remained confident in the integrity and importance of the fight. The road to justice was long, but Taylor's resolve was stronger than ever. This moment of rising pressure, far from deterring Taylor, had strengthened their commitment and determination to see justice through to the very end. Weeks of investigation and increasing public scrutiny culminated in a tense, decisive meeting at Mercy General Hospital. The conference room, typically used for routine staff meetings, had been transformed into a formal hearing space. Senior administrators, HR representatives, hospital attorneys, and Dr. Matthew Holt himself were present. Taylor Reed entered the room accompanied by Grace Nguyen and Dr. Susan Evans, who both offered supportive nods as they settled into their seats. Leslie Parker initiated proceedings, calmly outlining the investigation's findings. "We've conducted an exhaustive review, interviewing numerous witnesses and evaluating substantial documentation. The pattern of behavior displayed by Dr. Holt has been corroborated by multiple credible testimonies." Dr. Holt, visibly tense, sat stiffly beside his attorney, eyes fixed firmly ahead. He appeared composed outwardly, though subtle signs of agitation betrayed his internal discomfort. Taylor was called forward first, standing calmly to address the panel. With steady clarity, Taylor presented a meticulously prepared summary of documented incidents, supported by precise dates, detailed descriptions, and clear references to official policies and procedures. Each assertion was factual, carefully devoid of personal emotion or bias. "Throughout these incidents, I've maintained professionalism and prioritized patient care," Taylor explained methodically. "My intention in bringing forward this complaint has always been focused on addressing systemic problems to improve our work environment for all staff and ensure patient safety." The strength of Taylor's evidence, presented clearly and calmly, visibly impacted those present. Members of the panel nodded thoughtfully, clearly recognizing the validity of the arguments and evidence provided. Following Taylor's presentation, Grace Nguyen stood to offer her testimony. Her voice was clear and confident. Taylor's courage in addressing these issues has provided many of us with a voice we previously lacked. Dr. Holt's actions negatively impacted morale, teamwork, and ultimately patient care. It's time for accountability. Other witnesses followed, each reaffirming their own experiences and adding weight to the collective evidence against Dr. Holt. Each testimony systematically dismantled the arguments presented by Dr. Holt's attorney, who attempted repeatedly to question the credibility or motivations of the witnesses. Finally, Dr. Holt himself addressed the panel, his voice carefully controlled but strained. I acknowledge there have been misunderstandings and perhaps moments of frustration, but my intentions were always focused on patient care and maintaining standards. Leslie Parker challenged gently yet firmly. Dr. Holt, these were not isolated incidents. The testimonies demonstrate a pattern. Do you acknowledge your actions created an environment of intimidation? Dr. Holt hesitated momentarily, clearly struggling. Perhaps some actions were misinterpreted, he finally conceded. Taylor listened calmly, maintaining composure despite Holt's attempts to minimize the severity of the situation. After several hours of deliberation, the panel adjourned briefly to consider the extensive evidence presented. During the break, Taylor, Grace, and Dr. Evans waited quietly together. Susan placed a reassuring hand gently on Taylor's shoulder. You've handled this incredibly well. Regardless of the outcome, you've already created meaningful change. Finally, the panel reconvened. Leslie Parker stood to announce their findings, her tone steady and decisive. Based on the overwhelming evidence presented, it is clear Dr. Holt's conduct significantly violated hospital policies regarding professionalism, workplace behavior, and staff safety. Immediate corrective action is required. Dr. Holt visibly deflated at the announcement, his earlier composure breaking into disbelief. The panel continued, detailing the specific consequences. Dr. Holt would be relieved of his leadership roles, undergo mandatory sensitivity training, and placed on probation with strict oversight. Taylor felt a complex blend of relief, validation, and solemn acknowledgement of the difficult journey behind and ahead. Justice had been served, though the path had not been easy. After the meeting, Grace hugged Taylor warmly, her voice full of pride. You did it. We did it. Taylor smiled gently, voice steady yet emotional. Yes, we did, and hopefully this leads to broader changes. Dr. Evans approached quietly, sincerity evident. Your courage has set a powerful example. It will inspire others far beyond this hospital. That evening, Taylor reflected thoughtfully, understanding deeply that this victory was not merely personal. It was a step towards systemic change, marking the beginning rather than the end. As the initial waves of relief passed, Taylor recognized the profound responsibility that accompanied this moment. Yet the overwhelming emotion remained optimism, a belief that the truth, even difficult truths, could foster meaningful and lasting change. In the weeks following the climactic hearing, Mercy General Hospital gradually shifted toward healing and change. Taylor Reid continued daily routines with a renewed sense of purpose and optimism, noticing subtle yet meaningful shifts in staff interactions and attitudes. Dr. Matthew Holt remained notably subdued, adhering strictly to the conditions set by the panel and carefully avoiding confrontation. New policies addressing workplace behavior, harassment prevention, and reporting procedures were swiftly implemented. Hospital-wide mandatory training sessions commenced, signaling a clear institutional commitment to improvement and accountability. One afternoon, Taylor joined Grace Nguyen and Dr. Susan Evans for lunch in the hospital cafeteria, reflecting quietly on recent events. The atmosphere was lighter, filled with cautious optimism. Susan spoke first, her tone genuine and encouraging. The changes you've sparked are remarkable. Morale has noticeably improved, staff feel safer, more confident. Grace nodded enthusiastically, smiling warmly. It's incredible seeing colleagues openly supporting each other again. You made that possible, Taylor. Taylor accepted the praise graciously but remained humble. It was a collective effort. Everyone who stepped forward made this happen. Just then, Michael Rivera approached the table, looking relaxed and confident. Mind if I join? Please do, Taylor welcomed warmly, noting the newfound confidence evident in Michael's demeanor. I wanted to thank you, Taylor, Michael began earnestly. This whole experience has shown me the importance of speaking up. I feel empowered, less afraid. Taylor smiled gently, sincere gratitude evident. Your courage inspired others, Michael. We all contributed. The table fell briefly silent, each person reflecting on their shared journey. Susan finally broke the silence, her voice thoughtful yet optimistic. We've started something important here. It's our responsibility to ensure these changes become permanent. Taylor nodded firmly. Absolutely. Sustaining these improvements will require vigilance and commitment. As lunch ended, Taylor felt profound pride and hopefulness. The difficult journey had been worthwhile, setting a precedent not only within Mercy General but potentially throughout the healthcare community. Taylor now clearly recognized the role of advocate, not just professionally but personally. Weeks later, Taylor was invited to speak at a local healthcare conference about the experiences at Mercy General. Addressing healthcare professionals from across the region, Taylor shared the story transparently and passionately, emphasizing systemic solutions, documentation, and collective courage. Change requires patience, meticulous documentation, and courage, Taylor stated clearly to the audience, voice steady and resolute. Together, we can ensure workplaces remain safe and respectful for everyone. The audience responded warmly, many expressing personal gratitude afterward. Taylor's words resonated deeply, reaffirming the value of speaking truthfully and calmly even amid adversity. As life at Mercy General stabilized, Taylor embraced opportunities to mentor younger staff, emphasizing the importance of professionalism, integrity, and accountability. Colleagues increasingly viewed Taylor not only as a dedicated healthcare professional, but also as a compassionate leader and advocate. At a staff meeting several months later, hospital administrators formally recognized Taylor's contributions, publicly acknowledging the courage and leadership that sparked meaningful reforms. Staff members applauded warmly, demonstrating their gratitude and respect. That evening, Taylor reflected quietly at home, understanding clearly the impact of this journey. Family bonds had deepened, professional relationships strengthened, and personal resolve reinforced. While the path had undeniably been challenging, the positive outcomes validated every difficult moment. Taylor felt genuine peace, knowing significant, lasting change had begun, change built not on revenge but dignity, justice, truth, and community. This chapter concluded with undeniable clarity. The fight for justice was difficult yet deeply rewarding, establishing foundations for enduring progress and respect within healthcare and beyond. Taylor Reid had not only confronted truth but had also championed it, creating a meaningful legacy and setting a powerful example for others to follow.